The night had fallen cold, the wind howling with an unnatural chill. Everyone had heard the rumors about the Whispering Woods, but it was just a story. No one ever dared venture deep into it, until tonight. People had been vanishing, and the woods were at the heart of it. A group of 5 friends, eager for adventure, made their way to the edge of the woods. They laughed nervously, not fully understanding what they were about to walk into. As they stepped past the old, weather-beaten sign marking the forest's boundary, the air seemed to grow heavier. The whispers faint but unsettling. "What's that sound?" Mark asked, his voice tight with anxiety. "Probably just the wind," Rachel replied, though her voice shook. But it wasn't the wind. The whispers grew louder the deeper they went. The trees, twisted and bent unnaturally, reached out like fingers. The forest felt alive, pulsing with something ancient and malevolent. It fed on fear, closing in around them like a suffocating blanket. "Should we turn back?" Alex asked, his voice faltering. "We've come this far," Mark said, trying to sound brave. "Let's keep going." But the deeper they ventured, the stranger the atmosphere became. The usual sounds of night creatures vanished. Then Rachel stumbled, her foot catching on something wet. She looked down, her face paling as she saw blood-soaked earth beneath her. "This wasn't here before," she whispered. The others stared at the ground. It was fresh, warm. "What do we do?" Rachel asked, panic rising in her voice. "This isn't right. We need to leave." Before they could decide, a low growl echoed through the trees, making the hair on the back of their necks stand up. They turned, but saw nothing. "Did you hear that?" Mark asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I did," Alex replied, his eyes darting around. "We need to leave, now." But something was pulling them in, deeper into the woods. The whispers were louder now, clearer. It felt like the trees themselves were speaking to them. Then the trees began to move. Not in the way that a breeze rustles the leaves. No, the trunks bent and shifted, groaning as though they were alive. And then came the first figure, a pale, translucent shape floating just above the ground. It was humanoid but twisted, contorting in ways that no human should be able to. "What is that?" Mark gasped. "It's not real," Rachel whispered, though she knew she didn't believe it. But it was real, and it was getting closer. The figure's mouth opened wide, revealing darkness, a black void that seemed to consume all light. "Run!" Rachel screamed, turning to flee. But the ground seemed to shift beneath them. The path they had come from was now a labyrinth, twisted and endless. Panic surged through them as they realized they were trapped. "Why is this happening?" Alex shouted, his voice breaking. "What is this place?" The whispers answered, a language they couldn't understand. The meaning was clear. The forest was alive. It fed on their fear, and it wouldn't let them leave. Suddenly, the sky above darkened, despite the full moon. A cold wind swept through the trees, and the whispers turned into a deep, guttural chant. It wasn't the wind anymore. It was the forest itself. "We need to stick together," Mark said, his voice shaking, but it felt futile. Rachel's eyes were wide, her breath quick and shallow. "I don't want to die here." But they weren't going to die. Not yet. The forest wanted them alive to feel every ounce of terror, to feed on their fear until there was nothing left. Then came the sound of dragging footsteps, slow and steady. Alex turned, heart hammering, but nothing was there. At least, not visibly. But it was there, all around them, pressing in. The cold presence was suffocating, and then came the voices, whispers, calling their names, in the voices of loved ones long gone. "Get out," one whispered, soft and distant. "Leave before it's too late." But the forest wouldn't let them leave. It was closing in on them, suffocating them with its dark presence. The trees twisted and groaned, and the whispers turned to screams, louder and louder. The last thing they heard before the darkness consumed them was their own names, called out by voices that weren't their own. The whispering woods had claimed them, and it would claim anyone else who dared to enter its depths. And the chilling truth settled in. The forest didn't want them dead. It wanted them trapped. Forever. Would you dare to enter the whispering woods? It might be waiting for you, ready to feed on your fear until there's nothing left but emptiness.